Now we're going to talk about some additional techniques for requirements, and I think it's basically related to elicitation, which is requirement gathering. That how do we gather requirements? We can make workshops, means we can make group discussions together and refine requirements, and it's usually done between companies. You can prototype it, you can create a simple version of the system so that we can gather feedback, and we use modeling for most of the time also to get the user or the main person feedback who is asking you to make the app. Observation, we can watching users perform. Brainstorming, we can generate ideas ourselves. So basically, the brainstorming part, they usually goes to the business or the organization you want to make business for, because whenever you have an idea, you want to confirm if the business wants that idea or not. You can have questionnaires, okay, and you can use case modeling. It's getting more popular these days. And you case modeling, you make diagrams, right? Like the diagrams, UML diagrams, use case diagrams, or the in case of databases we have those ER diagrams. These diagrams will help you, and most of the time they try to automate it so that you can now they're trying to automate it so that the it automatically the your diagram or whatever you modeled it in the case is going to convert into code, but it's still not efficient yet, right? Now, software requirements in the context of system engineering, right? So now we're going to really study about the systems engineering. In systems engineering, software requirements play a crucial role, and we are going to study it. So how requirement evolve, right? So requirement evolve over time, which means they can change as the project progresses. And what are the reasons? Maybe the business needs change, technology. This is a big thing to understand today, and then the feedback, right? And these days are always focusing on developing more and more technologies like LLMs have been coming out. So based on that, how businesses can thrive, how their applications can thrive, right? Subtopics are this: why requirements evolve. So we are going to understand these concepts more detail. New information, of course, we have new information, more details become clear, which may lead to changing requirements. Like for example, for web, we used to have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? Then came Bootstrap, then came, React and Node.js. Now it becomes jQuery. It becomes more easy to write code now. If you're a developer, right? You can just make things using these tools more easily. So tools are coming out, so of course we should be using them. Shifting business ideas, maybe the priorities change, or the direction change. Technological advancements may offer better solutions, as I told you. User feedback means user may ask you to change the different versions. So it's really important, because I think most of the apps and websites we use, some things that we hate about them, and we want their owners to change it. So for me, I think the ChatGPT has this drop down, but it's really really light. So I kind of messed around with it a little, but I think these kind of things can affect you, and you can make your software better by, I think, user feedback. Really important. Managing requirement evolution. Change control, ensure changes are documented. Changes should be always documented. Documentation is considered a boring part, but the most important part. Traceability, there should be requirements involvement, and requirements to trace back to their source, right? And there should be clear communication between the stakeholders. Now, the traceability is here, so it involves tracking each requirement through its lifecycle from its origin to its implementation and verification. Really important. This process ensures that each requirement is accounted for and properly linked to its source. Okay, subtopics in requirement traceability. Why traceability is important? Because it's really important because we really understand the stakeholder needs, and we can always, if I want to change some requirement, we can go back to our source, change our source, and then we can link to it again. We can verify coverage, helps verify all requirements are addressed during development and testing. Great. Change management, when changes occur, traceability helps understand the impact on the system and ensures consistency. I told you we're going to learn this topic more. What are the type of traceabilities? As I told you that we can go from, like, traceability is when, for example, I had some requirement, I wanted a button on my, for example, site. I'm making a web application, and what was the reason? Because I wanted the user to add to cart. So this was add to cart button, right? So when they have, chosen the product you want, they want to add it to the cart, and that's why I made a button. So this is my source here, and this is my basically the destination, right? So this is my source. This was my source, and this is basically my destination, right? So that was what the example shows us. Now there are further types of traceability. I think there are more, but they have just described 3 here. We have forward traceability, means it tracks how each requirement influence. So what is the path we really studied for the software development cycle, SDC. So we had, so first of all, gather, and then analyze things. I'm not writing them, I'm just writing the design, and code, and then validate and verify, whatever, right? Means testable or whatever. So we gather requirements and then we design our software, right? So in this case, where each requirement originated, requirement influenced design, coding, testing, and validation, right? So means that the requirement was here. I can go up here and then I can traceable to back, right? So, sorry, I just made it so. Um, I just made a mess, so you can't really understand it. But first we gathered it, then we designed it, and then I'm talking about the software development cycle. I'm not talking about only the requirement cycle. So in this case, it says that each requirement influences design. I mean, it goes from the gathering part up until the test part, right? Right? So forward traceability means that you are really literally going forward from gathering to testing, and it influences your design, your coding, and your testing, and your validation, right? It influences all these paths. Now, what is backward traceability? It tracks where each requirement originated from, ensuring it is linked to stakeholder goals or business needs. It goes backward. It goes from validation to core to design together, right? So it goes from forward. It goes backward. It goes to the source in the gathering part, right? Bidirectional combines both forward and backward traceability, ensuring the requirements are both implemented and linked to the initial goals. And I think this is a more better way of approaching it, because you have bi-directional links, so you can always understand about the source and about the destination, and can always check if your requirement is still to the point where it used to be, because you are on the right track. It needs to be on the right track, right? There are some tools for testability. There were other, I think, types of traceability you could check out. I don't have anything in mind yet, but maybe I will also write them down here. So there are a lot of tools, requirement management tools like Jira, IBM, Rational Doors, or Trello help track requirements and the connections to other project components. And this is what project manager did, right? He or she tracks it. Documentation manual methods such as spreadsheets or traceability matrices can be used to track requirements. Right, okay, but now these more tools are being used. We don't manually do anything, right? Okay, so moving on, we are going to talk about the requirement prioritization, right? We have studied about this concept, which we studied gather, we studied analyze, then document, then we are going to do prioritize, then validate, manage, and finally approve. So this is kind of, weird uh, pronunciation. I'm sorry, the weird abbreviation. But the thing is, first of all, you gather. This is called the requirement cycle. I don't know it's officially called, but just call it a requirement cycle, which is first gather the requirements, analyze them, document them, prioritize them. I think prioritize was first, and then the document was there, and then we, then we do what? I don't think so. I think I forgot it. But anyways, then we manage it, and then we approve it, right? If there is going to be, after reviewing it, if there's going to be any change, right? So I think I don't know what the V is, but yeah, I will search it out and share it with you. Right. So these were the cycle of requirements. Now we're going to study about the requirement prioritization, and there are going to be the subtopics in them. So methods of prioritization. How do we prioritize our requirements? Boss go method. Okay, so don't write this as boss go. Okay, so this is really literally like the way it is. Boss go. Boss go method. Right. So the last word is big, and this word first word is also big. Right. Write that in the way it's written. So the user or whatever the person checking your page could get it. And categories requirements into must have, should have, could have, and won't have. This helps in focusing on essential features first. M for must have, S for should have, C for could have, and W for would have. Got it. And you can give some examples here. So for example, if I'm building, for example, web software, right? Must have would be a header and a footer. You know, they should be best. They should be the ones. Should have would be like I should have, but I can, kind of, cheat it. So I should have maybe a menu bar here. Sometimes we don't really like menu bars, so we just use it manually or do some other methods. Could have, we could have, divs here, sorry, the web term, the divs here to represent stuff. Maybe we use different kind of framework or different kind of things to represent the same thing because there are very many solutions to one problem. And won't have means when we don't want to have, add space here. Simple, simple stuff. So these are just all the requirements you can have, and this is a really important question. And what type of features can be categorized into these, into these four categories. So I would encourage you to look them up, maybe on the ChatGPT or web. Kano model means classifies requirement into basic, performance, and excitement factors to understand which feature is essential or which will delight users, right? So basic as literally shows that what are the really building blocks. Performance means what will increase performance, and excitement means what can really enhance, the user experience, right? For example, if I'm on a web, sometimes my users are visiting my website, and maybe I have a little different change of colors, and my menu is a little bit too bold, or there's a gradient right here, so that's just like really appealing to the eye. But you need to really see that if your application is performing well, you need to add these extra excitement factors, right? But always make sure that your basic application works best first. Cost benefit analysis, weigh the cost of implementing a requirement against the benefits it will provide. Again, the really important stuff. So for example, the basic would be good. For example, the header and footer is this, these are really, basic examples. We are talking about the big apps here. So when we are registering things, these are really the basic ones. Or when we are providing, so for example, I have an application that takes some text and converts the data into MCQs, right? So in this case, the cost of implementing a requirement against the benefit it will provide. If it provides more benefit, we are going to keep the requirement, otherwise discard it. This is also a very important question to give some example there, right? I will be searching about, and maybe I will share it with you, but you should also check it out. Stakeholder voting, yeah. Get inputs from stakeholder on which features are most important to them. So when we are talking about stakeholders, we would have a user, we would have the team, we would have the investor, maybe the one of the most important person, and we would have, the person making wanted to make the our app, whatever. Investors and the ones who want to have app, maybe the same. Maybe they invest the money in their own app, but sometimes we would have a separate investor. So thinking about all their needs, about all of their needs is important. So it's better to get the idea And you can also give one to, there was another point I studied somewhere, that you can also get rankings from 1 to 100 from each user in the each stakeholder, and based on that voting you can decide how to prioritize them, right? So there are 4 things: Moscow method, Kano model, cost benefit analysis, and stakeholder voting. So benefits of prioritization: of course, you have a time delivery because you have to work on a schedule, and you would have most critical requirements done first. You would have optimized resource allocation, and you would have a reduced risk. So if more requirements which are really important are done first, you would have a little work to do, so you are more comfortable working. And I think that's the best part of maybe working, because you're really using the resources in the optimization part, and there will be less risk because all the good things have already been done, right? Okay, so we are going to talk about the trade-off analysis in the next video.